There's a lot of good when it comes to the WWE 2K games. Over the years, we've seen graphical improvements, match types like war games being added, huge rosters, lots of customization options, and we're going to take a really close look at some of the highlighted features here that are really just not working in these games anymore. Some stuff that's been around for years and really need to be either removed or overhauled to get a better experience in these games. I want the games to be good. I want all the wrestling games to thrive and for players to get all of the benefits and features and best options available. Some systems feel outdated, lack depth, creativity altogether, like the rivalry system in Universe Mode. Rivalries really don't feel that intense. They lack a lot of the cutscenes that would make sense for the story you want, and it can feel very generic, and a lot of the time, I'm manually selecting the rivalry action myself instead of seeing what could be played out for the story. Also, for all the years we've had Universe Mode, we still can't get beyond a 1v1 or tag team rivalry. Look at the WWE product today. There are factions everywhere. Every show is dealing with factions, multiple people within groups, not only taking on other factions, but they have inner turmoil, issues, all of that stuff to create a better storyline. The rivalry system alone feels bland and uninspiring and needs to get a facelift in the next game. And sticking with Universe Mode, overall it feels like it's copy and paste year after year with very little improvements along the way. The mode came out in SmackDown vs. Raw 2011, and looking back, it hasn't evolved that much. We've seen things added and then taken away, but the core experience is the same. Calendars still work the same with major and minor shows. We can't select 2-day premium live events like WrestleMania. Double title matches still are not functional either. And funny enough, it's the mode that I want to spend the most time in when it comes to my wrestling game. Every year the game comes out and I really want to spend so much time in Universe Mode crafting my shows, crafting my universe, building it the way I want, doing more Attitude Era inspired shows, doing an AEW show. I like having the freedom and I like the sandbox element, but it's starting to feel really out of date. And honestly, when I look back at the original GM mode in SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 and 2007, the simple act of hiring writers for specific storylines is so fun. Managing the contracts, it starts to feel like GM mode and Universe Mode really need to just blend together in one sandbox. And I think especially in the last 5 years, it really felt lackluster, and not including things like promos in the match card, show intros, a draft, really pulls the players out. Promos being one of the most requested things to come back into the series. And they weren't great, but they did add a dimension and an element. People want story designer and be able to craft customized stories within their universe or just the game itself. But if we still are going to be getting Universe Mode again, they need to bring in the promo element. We can't have just generic rivalries and matches that are just with attacking cutscenes. You need promos put in there. So much of WWE's product, especially nowadays, is the storyline, it's the promo. Having Seth and CM Punk going face to face together for the first time, you need to be able to recreate that in your Universe Mode. Being able to select cutscenes, being able to select backstage segments to have, and not just that they're gonna run out and attack each other. And it really just pulls players out of the whole experience. But speaking of pulling players out, the last 2 games we've been given Superstar Mode, which doesn't add much of anything. You follow one wrestler's journey and it's kind of like your own road to WrestleMania. So in theory, it works, but nothing's different. No different exclusive cutscenes for specific wrestlers you pick, or even within the mode. Also, I can't even simulate a single match. I have to play it. There's no incentive here, and I honestly think that in 24, they just need to remove it altogether. It doesn't add anything. If I'm gonna play as Bianca Belair in Superstar Mode, I should get specific Bianca stories or be able to get cutscenes that are tailor-made for a female wrestler, or if I'm gonna play as Roman Reigns, give me more of a championship storyline angles. Like, there's nothing there that's going to be different than regular Universe. And the simple act of not being able to simulate the matches of your focused wrestler, I think is a huge issue. So if it does stay in, that feature needs to get overhauled, because it's simply annoying playing through every single match of Monday Night Raw and maybe I just want to play through the premium live events. But then we get to other features like the long requested return of GM mode, and the mode that players requested 2K to bring back to the series every single year, and then they finally did in 2K22 and 23. But even with 2 years with the game mode, it's still lacking a lot of features. My GM lacks the full calendar, trades, and it just feels kind of hollow. And I personally enjoy playing my GM mode. I like the old ones, and I still jump into GM mode today because I like that management style of gameplay sometimes. I like being able to manage my shows, contracts, and things of that nature. It's not for everybody. Some people, including yourself in the comments, might say, I don't touch GM mode, it's my least favorite thing. I don't care about managing shows and contracts and money and all of that. But I like that we do have the options of sandbox versus GM mode. But in 2006, in the SmackDown vs. Raw days, they gave us trades, full contract control instead of just locked to 5 weeks. I could go up for a trade and propose a trade and trade from Raw to SmackDown 3 wrestlers for just 1. I could do 1 big name on Raw for 1 big name on SmackDown. It was awesome. You could try and give the AI 3 trash wrestlers to see if they will return with a bigger name to you. It was fun because within that element, I could just push for trades every day if I wanted to. You had storyline writers, like I said, where I could then select the best stories for the rivalries I have. And look at the original 2006, where it wasn't based on a class system, but just popularity of the wrestlers, keep the wrestlers happy, get better star ratings for your matches, and have fun. The messages from wrestlers and how unhappy they are feels really generic, and it lacks all of the match types from the game that are available. And setting up rivalries or title matches really doesn't feel like it has any consequence. Something else that's really lacking and needs to be addressed and fixed for sure is showcase mode. And one thing in the mode that I'm not a fan of is a lack of commentary. The old showcases and careers and Road to WrestleManias, they would give you the actual match commentary so that you could experience those moments, those matches, and it elevated the experience versus now we get the footage with no commentary of just what happened in the match. And the other thing with Showcase that really drives me nuts and needs to be corrected is going to be with doing the sequences. For me, I'm constantly pausing the game to see what the next move or 2 moves and how to do it and what I need to do in order to do it to get on to the next thing. And it's a constant start and stop, so it completely removes you from the experience, and it turns into more of me just wanting to get the match done, get the objectives done, versus trying to enjoy what the match is about, what the big rivalry was about in WWE. It feels very limited and it doesn't have enough depth. And speaking of which, community creations is another one that has a lot of limitations. Now, I can't go through the laundry list of everything for community creations that needs to be fixed. Also, there's creators out there that know way more than I do when it comes to logos and hairstyles and what's missing. Also, hair physics is just kind of wonky still after all these years. But there's a lot within community creations that needs to be addressed in general. Limited creation slots, limited creation parts are just an example of what needs to be corrected and what features need to be really overhauled and looked at. There are amazing creators in the community that work so hard to get wrestlers, legends to look identical, to look lifelike, to resemble the real counterpart so that we can enjoy them. And the amount of time it seems that they have to spend on all of this to get logos stitched together to do correctly, to deal with different layers, stuff glitching, just crashing in general, not to mention arenas on that side and custom arenas that we get from the community. They need more tools, they need more access, they need more to be able to leverage their work and just make it easier. Now, another thing that I saw pop up online a lot from people has to do with gameplay. Now, some people just love the days of 2019 and before where they could go and they just get a completely different control scheme, and they love that. Some people are more fans of the new control scheme. But there are some elements in the new controls and the new features within that I feel like are just unnecessary. Some people feel like the dodge option in there should just be removed entirely. We have reversals, and dodge is a good idea in some regards, but I feel then it just starts to get too on the arcadey side. This is supposed to be a simulation experience, not an arcade game. So I feel like if you're dodging back and forth, you're kind of like boxing. Like it's not Mortal Kombat. We have our reversals which need to be retweaked. But the other thing that is in these games from 22 and 23 that I really don't like is going to be the red glowy that we get with our health damage. So your vitality or the health bar, as you're taking more and more damage and you're getting weaker and it's deeper into the match, the screen is going to flash red. So we not only get actual on-screen red flash that we're going to be taking too much damage and we could get pinned, we also know that our little icon for our body damage is in deep red. It's kind of like pick one or the other in my opinion. You can turn off the HUD and turn off all of that stuff if you want to, but I kind of want to be able to have maybe the HUD there so I can see how many finishers I have, what my stamina is, to see the information about my wrestler, but I maybe just want to be able to have the option to toggle off the red glow. I don't need it. And then within that too, within gameplay itself, the fighting stances. This has always been kind of a question mark for me, is why don't they have more fighting stances or just change it up a little bit? The last few years have just been these hunched over grappling positions where everyone is doing the exact same motion when they're coming into contact with the wrestler to start the match. At the very least, I think they need to improve this by either just removing it completely and they just have one generic stance where they're standing tall, or you got to be able to do it based on the class. So from a super heavyweight to a cruiserweight, they should not be standing the same way when they're starting a match off. Why is a super heavyweight hunched over like he's gonna go and do a grapple and a takedown to the ground? He should be standing like a super heavyweight, and in contrast to that, a cruiserweight should be standing differently as well. I don't need them bouncing around all the time, but I think there should be different stances that you could at least pick from, because the generic ones here, it doesn't work for me, brother. The other thing that doesn't work for me anymore is going to be weapons. Now, I like weapons. I like having weapons. I like having lots of weapons, but in the 2K games the last 2 years, it's lacking creativity, same weapons, same old, same old. Now what they did in 2K20 was actually interesting, and I am bringing up 2K20 as just as a nonsense as that game was, but you allowed the ability to have like more custom weapons. You unlocked some different weapons, different skin weapons. Fight Forever actually does this, and I really like it, where you can reskin all the weapons. Allow us to do that. Let me put on a blue chair or a pink chair, or put Cody Rhodes' face on one of the chairs and I can smash somebody over the head with it. It doesn't have to be vastly different, but just a little bit more customization is good. But refresh the weapon wheel. We've had the same weapons in there for years and it's getting a little dull. Change it up and add different weapons in there to get it more creative. On top of that, ringside weapons also need to be fixed. It's something that is really not addressed for years, and it's something that's been removed, and I don't know why it never came back. We used to be able to go ringside and get the ringside bell and be able to get a ringside championship. We can't do that anymore. We can get a ringside chair and the ring bell is there, but we can't touch it. Allow players to go and grab the bell at ringside and be able to smack their opponent and get disqualified. Or if it's a championship match, have the belt sitting there on the desk on a table at ringside so I can grab the championship belt and hit my opponent with the referee knockdown. Those things alone add a little bit more depth, creativity, just they beef up the rivalries that you're having, they make it more fun. And the last thing that 2K23 did that I feel like it was one of the worst features, and it was one of the more exciting ones that they had originally announced, and it's double title motions in the game. We get generic title motions for double title matches. The only person that gets a specific one is Roman Reigns, and otherwise everyone is coming out with the exact same double title motion, and double titles in WWE aren't even really a thing anymore other than the tag titles. So I feel like this is something that just remove it completely. If we can't get a lot of depth, if we can't get a lot of options when it comes to this feature, just remove it and go back down to single titles if it's too much work. But if they feel like they're gonna keep it in 24, they really gotta beef this up, because some wrestlers over the years have had very specific title motions when it comes to double titles. RVD, Chris Jericho, John Cena, Randy Orton, Triple H holding up both belts at WrestleMania 18. And even if they're gonna stay generic, let us have one belt around the waist and one held over the shoulder instead of this awkward, just double belt walking motion they got. And the women too. The women don't even have specific motions. But what needs to get fixed for you? What did I miss on the list? There's probably 20,000 other things. So let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button too, it supports the channel here. I will see you on the next one.